Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your guest co-hosts, the Canadian All-Stars, Aaron Bronstetter, James Lynch, and Dravi. And today we're going to talk about UFC 315, Belal Muhammad versus Della Maddalena. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. We got the Arabic GSP fighting in GSP's hometown, taking on the very, very dangerous Della Maddalena for the undisputed welterweight title. So without further ado, gentlemen, let's get right down to business, because in this main event, we got the champ, Belal Muhammad. He's 24-3, taking on the challenger, Della Maddalena, who's 17-2. And currently, they got it, Belal Muhammad, minus 165. The comeback on JDM is plus 145. Aaron Bronstetter, I mean, I know you're used to GSP being the headlining act at the Bell Center, but now you got Belal Muhammad. This should be a great fight here with JDM. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tactical, interesting fight. But I think that, would you be surprised if this fight ended inside the distance? Because I think I would. I think that if you look at this fight, I think more often than not, this fight goes the distance. And more often than not, Belal Muhammad wins the fight if it goes the distance. So I think this is kind of a keep it simple, stupid fight for me. It's like, don't overthink this thing. Belal by decisions, like even money. That's probably the direction you go in this fight. Am I do you guys agree with that? I feel like it's a kind of a fight that should be a little bit predictable, honestly.
Interesting. James Lynch, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I hope Aaron and I don't agree this whole card. It'll be a kind of a boring show for the two Canadians are too polite and they agree with each other all the time. But no, I mean, you look at it there. This is the 427-day layoff for Della Maddalena coming into this fight. That's the longest of his career. He didn't, I think people have a little bit of weird revisionist history with Jack's last fight against Gilbert Burns. Cause if he didn't get that finish, it was going to be pretty close if it went to the scorecards. And, we saw Gilbert Burns get some takedowns. This is 5 rounds. This is Belal's wheelhouse. We've seen him do this number of times. He definitely improved the wrestling and the striking. I'm with Aaron. Outside of Jack maybe finishing Belal was finished 10 years ago against Vicente Luque on the Conor McGregor Eddie Alvarez card on the prelims. That's the last time he's been finished. I don't see Jack being the guy to do it. I'm with Aaron. You're getting Belal Muhammad at almost even money on the prop line there. I think that's a great bet. I think Belal retains his title.
Dravi?
Yeah, that's where it's gonna get interesting, because I'll have to disagree a little bit, in the sense that I think it's gonna be a very close fight, and I can understand argument on both sides, right? I think you can make a case for Belal, and Dan, you've been one of these guys that have cashing Belal as an underdog left and right, for almost all of his career. But now the market's gone a bit different here. They're giving him respect, which I think is deserved. But when we're talking, plus money in almost the last 4 years, and now he's minus 200. I think GDM's a hard matchup for him personally, just because I feel like his grappling and takedown defense getting a bit underrated going into this fight. I'm pretty sure Belal's going to be able to take him down, but the question is, what is he going to do with it? I think GDM scrambles and get up game is pretty good, and he's going to be able to get back up to his feet if he get taken down. And then I think Belal could potentially take the back if you take him down, but I don't think he's going to finish him. Basically, that's what I'm saying. And on the feet, we got to favor GDM. I think his boxing is top notch. The way he goes to the body could be a key to victory here. And his combination, I think the damage that he's going to do in this fight is going to be the difference maker. I think he's going to land a bigger shot, do a bit more. And Belal said he wants to test his striking. I don't really believe that. Maybe he will a little bit, but I'm pretty confident he's going to attempt at least 10 takedowns. And that's what he should do, right? Mix up the game, try to wrestle and all that. But at the end of the day, I just feel like GDM has more ways to win this fight. I think he could finish the fight by knockout. And I also think he could win a decision based on damage doing more over the course of 25 minutes. And I just feel like now the market always priced GDM as a favorite all of his UFC career. And now they're putting him as an underdog. Big step up. It's a big fight. But Belal always an underdog. The last time he was a favorite was against Damian Maia in 2021, and now minus 220. He was some money coming on GDM. I think it was justified. Personally, I play him at plus 205, but I also think that at the current line, there's still value. There's a fight that I think should be closer to Belal minus 125 based on wrestling upside and the fact that he's the champ. But GDM is 28, Belal is 36. We got to factor that as well. So yeah, very close fight, very interesting fight. But I'm going to pick GDM to get the upset here and you.
Yeah, listen, as far as the age, normally I'm all about like, fading the guy born before 1990 against the guy, born after 1990. But I do want to say this, like Belal is like the same age as Kamaru Usman, but there's just a big difference in where they're at in terms of mileage, right? Like Belal's never had a sip of alcohol in his life. He's never smoked in his life. So he's a fresh 36, a young, 36, 37, whereas Kamaru Usman, for a fact that dude was going on bingers between title fights, and now he's walking down the stairs backwards and stuff, and you guys are going to see what Joaquin Buckley's going to do in Atlanta. But that being said, guys, there's only one way to beat Belal Muhammad. If you want to beat Belal Muhammad, you must inflict damage on Belal Muhammad. There's literally no other way to beat this guy. If you try to have a thinking man's fight with him, you're losing. You try to have a point battle with him, you're losing. You must damage Belal Muhammad to beat him, and there's really no other way. The three people that have beat him, Jeff Neal, Vicente, and Alan Juban, all had something in common. They put damage on him. So that's what makes it interesting for me with JDM, is that he's the kind of guy that, like James was mentioning, in that Gilbert Burns fight, he was down 2-0 on the cards, right? So then he's still dangerous in that third round, and he's on the mat with a serious black belt, is able to get back up to his feet, land the knee that ends the fight. And you start to feel like in situations like that, maybe 5 rounds would really benefit a guy like JDM. My concern is this, if you're going to take the underdog, my concern is this being like a situation like Volk versus Diego or Ian Gary versus Prates, where one guy gets so far ahead on the scorecards and the other guy almost finishes the fight, right? Diego Lopez almost finished the fight. Carlos Prates almost finished the fight, but they were so behind on points that when it got to that decision, even almost finishing the fight wasn't enough to win the decision, right? So if this goes to a decision, I think Belal wins for sure. But do I think Jack has a chance? Yes, I think he is that dangerous. And also, this might sound kind of crazy and controversial. I think he's a tougher fight for Belal than Shavkat. Why do I say that? Because he fights at double the pace of Shavkat. Shavkat fights at a really measured pace. I mean, Shavkat just went 5 rounds and didn't even land 40 significant strikes. JDM will land 40 significant strikes in the first round. So I still think Belal should get it done, and I agree with Belal being favored, but I'm used to coming out here and betting Belal at underdog prices every single fight. Or like Drabi said, the only time he's the favorite, he's like a short favorite against Damian Maia. Now I got to pay a premium against a young, hungry stud. I'm passing. I'll pick Belal to defend his belt. Now, next up in the flyweight division for the belt, we got the champ, Valentina Shevchenko. She is 24-4-1, taking on Manon Fiorot, who's 12-1. Currently, they got it. Manon Fiorot minus 140. The comeback on Valentina Shevchenko is plus 120. James, I know you got an opinion on this one. So to quote James Lynch, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I know you saw me chiming in there because I think there's a lot of people out there that think that Manon Fiorot is a lot younger than Valentina, and she really isn't. And I think that does play a role in this fight. Now, look, Valentina, you look at the age there, 37. I think she's going on 38 this year. That is concerning. But I think if you look at her last performance against Alexa Grasso, didn't really look like she lost a step. In fact, I think she looked better, and it was just a really good game plan that won her that last fight. Now she's fighting a striker, and Valentina is going to have her hands full because Manon Fiorot is a very good striker, and we've seen her piece up other women like Erin Blanchfield. We've seen her stop takedowns like she did against Blanchfield. But what it really boils down to me is the 5-round experience for Valentina in this fight. She's fought the best of the best, and I'm not seeing that sign of decline like you see with some of the older fighters here. Now I think if you're going to bet this, and I know you're not going to get great prices here, but the over and the fight goes the distance. This is going to be close. This is a tough fight in my opinion. I could definitely see a world where Manon Fiorot is just a little bit faster and outstrikes Valentina. But what does Valentina have in her back pocket? She does have the wrestling. She does have the takedown. She does have the submission game as well if she needs to use it. That, to me, will be the difference here. Now, does she get those? I don't know, but it's really hard to bet against Valentina and saying that she's going to get outstruck. The other thing I looked at in her career, doesn't take a lot of damage. She, you mentioned Belal, not drinking and not taking a lot of damage throughout his career. Valentina, I mean, I went back and looked at some of her other fights. Like, she doesn't get hit that much. So I think she's very fresh in terms of her being in this title spot here. I think Valentina wins a decision, but it could get dicey here just because she is fighting a striker that I think will meet her match, so to speak, in that department.
Dravi?
Yeah, we're gonna go head to head on this one. I'm gonna pick Manon to get it done. So I think we're gonna see 2 new champions Saturday night, and Manon Fiorot is a girl that has been very good for me. Same with Dan with Belal, right? I've been betting on her every fight. Always said she would be a champion. Always said she would challenge for the belt one day. and now this is her time. And I feel like, yes, the difference in age is not that much, but I think the mileage and on the body and the fact that Valentina has done it all, made the money, been the champ, defended the belt multiple times. Manon, it's like it's her time now. Like she has everything to win with a win here. And I know she's hungry for a fact. I know she's training hard. I'm not saying Valentina is not training hard, but I'm just saying the motivation for Manon going into this fight, I'm pretty certain is higher than Valentina. And also, I think she's just catching her at the right time. But even in her prime, I feel like Manon will be a hard matchup for her. And now looking back, to be honest, like, yes, she looked great against Grasso the last fight, but I also think that Grasso is first of all, an easier matchup for her, but also Grasso didn't show up that fight personally. Like, she didn't throw many strikes, she didn't defend many takedowns, she didn't really know what to do. Val did what she had to do to get it done. But to me, it's since the Tyler Santos fight. I think that's where we're starting to see Valentina declining. Tyler Santos arguably beat her. It was a 50-50 fight. And the difference maker in that fight was the physicality, right? Valentina normally is bigger, stronger than all these girls, and she's not able to get her game going, bully this girl. And Tyler Santos matched her on physicality. And, you know, it was very, very competitive. And here, going into this one, I think that Fiorot is even stronger than a girl like Tyler Santos. I think her physicality for women's MMA is like top notch. So, and going into this fight, I know people might think that Valentina might grapple and have success that way. Personally, I think Manon's going to defend all the takedowns that come her way. I think she's going to be able to keep the fight on the feet. And when she does, I just think she throw more volume. She's going to be able to outpoint Valentina doing more. Valentina is more of a counter striker. She's very good at it. But I think she's going to get caught here trying to counter and trying to take pictures. And Manon's going to work. And then same as you guys mentioned for the Ian Gary and which fight?
Protest.
Yeah, Protest, right? So it's like she's going to need to come back at the end. And I think Manon cardio is great. I think her striking is very good. And again, I just think she's the stronger girl, the bigger girl, and the girl with all the momentum going into this fight and everything to win. So yeah, I think the line is fine now. I think, you know, minus 150, minus 160 makes sense for Manon. But I can understand why it's tempting to bet a girl like Valentina, you know, at plus money. But I feel like her time is coming. And it's not only the Grasso fight. Like I said, the Tyler Santos fight, it's where I start to see some decline in her game. And I just think Manon is even a harder fight than a Tyler Santos or Alexa Grasso. So yeah, Manon by decision, it's my prediction for this fight.
Okay, so we got our first bettor versus journalist pick. Let's see where Bronstetter falls on this.
I'm going to be a bit more Switzerland here because, like, this is the thing. If you're looking at the fighter that has the better way to win, which I think is Manon Fiorot, like, I think that her physicality, like you said, is off the charts. Her distance management, range management is better than anybody I think we've ever seen in women's MMA. I truly believe that. But at the same time, I think that Valentina Shevchenko is going to give her so many more looks that she hasn't had yet in MMA. And to get those kind of looks in your first title fight, 5-round fight, you know, that worries me a little bit when I see that Manon is the favorite. So again, I think that you have to decide what you'd rather side with. The person with the better way to win, which I think is Manon Fiorot, she just does what she does. I think that she's such a tough puzzle to solve for absolutely anybody. But if you want the fighter with more ways to win, I think that that's Valentina Shevchenko. Like, I think that if she's able to get her down even once, like, that's enough for her to be able to find the submission, depending on how good Manon Fiorot is on the ground. And that's kind of the X factor here, is we don't really know. You know, there's like a lot of unknowns in this fight on the Manon Fiorot side. We know what we're getting with Valentina. So I think that Valentina, if you want to be safer and more comfortable, I feel like Valentina is probably the pick. But I also think that if you're asking who wins this fight more often than not, I think it's probably Manon. So I hate to be a bit of a flip-flop or John Kerry type here, but I think that, like, it's just kind of a weird fight to pick in that regard. I would probably lean Manon Fiorot, though.
I thought we were going to have an official journalist versus bettor spot here. But listen, guys, also on.
But I would stay away from betting it. I don't think that. I think that it's a volatile fight.
Listen, guys, well, I'm doing the opposite of what Bronstetter recommended. I did bet it, but that being said, I didn't bet it at minus 140. I bet it at minus 120. So I've already, beat the current line by 20 cents. We'll see exactly where it closes come fight time. But all that being said, guys, we can talk about the last fight with Grasso. And to me, more that she didn't show up, it's actually that she didn't make any adjustments, right? Like, when she got taken down, her whole goal was, it was like they were in a jiu-jitsu match. Like I was like at IBJJF last week. You know, I shook Jacare's hand, but when I'm watching these fights, these matches, you know, the girls like to play off their back and look for submissions, and that's literally what I saw from Alexa Grasso. Like, it's not like she just laid there like a fish. I mean, she was, you know, throwing up triangles, throwing up arm bars, had a guillotine attempt, all this stuff. But like when that didn't work, there was no plan B to, you know, put those feet on the hip, push up, get back up to your feet. Like there was none of that. There was no adjustments. So in round one, I was like, wow, Valentina is looking like, you know, like GSP out here. But then after that, I was like, is Alexa going to make any adjustments at all? So props to Valentina for getting that belt back. But I think it's going to be a lot tougher here for a variety of reasons. Number one, when you look at Alexa's game, and we're going to talk about Alexa in the next fight, but there's two areas you don't mess around with Alexa: boxing in the pocket, and then you just have to kind of be careful because she's opportunistic on the mat. But that's about the extent of it. Whereas Manon Fiorot, not only does she have the physicality here, not only is she not going to just fall over to takedown attempts, you know, because Alexa, like I said, she wants to play off her back. She's so confident in her jiu-jitsu nowadays for whatever reason, maybe all that training with Diego Lopez, maybe the fact that she won the belt via submission had her fall in love with her jiu-jitsu. But Manon's not going to play off her back. In fact, Manon has over 90% takedown defense, and we're dealing with takedown attempts from real seasoned people like Aaron Blanchfield, who I personally think is going to challenge for a belt one day. I think would choke out Valentina. And when you look at the pace that Aaron and Manon fought at, I mean, like, guys, let's just put it in perspective. Valentina Shevchenko has had 17 UFC fights. Don't look it up. Let's just go across the room and just throw out a response for me real quick. If you had a guess, in how many of those 17 fights has Valentina Shevchenko hit the 100 significant strike mark? What would your guess be, Bronstetter? Just throw out a number.
0.
Okay. Lynch, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go 0.
Dravi, I know you know the answer.
I don't. I'll go 1.
Okay, well, the two journalists are right here. The answer is 0. She's never hit the 100 significant strike mark even once. And y'all were mentioning she's got all that 5-round experience, which I'm glad you mentioned. Even in all those 5-round fights, she hasn't hit the 100 significant strike mark. Whereas Manon almost hit the 200 significant strike mark her last fight. I think she fights at double the pace of Valentina. Now, another important point I want to make. Valentina, very stationary, not much footwork, kind of a counter striker. So she wants you to come to her. The issue there is that I think that unlike Alexa, who likes to box in the pocket, which is going to open up, you know, all the openings for Valentina to get off on her counter heavy game, I think that Manon is a mover. I don't think Manon's going to be a stationary target. I think it's going to be side kicks, moving around, sounds, you know, like the old school Caitlin Chukagian sounds, except with a much better striker and a much more physical person. And as far as the youth, yeah, she's only 2 years younger. I'm not trying to act like Valentina is like, you know, on her way to the, you know, to the retirement home or anything like that. But I think that Manon's a lot fresher, a lot less mileage. And I just haven't seen that evolution in Valentina's game, aside from maybe her offensive takedown game, but the striking game has been exactly the same as it's always been for years. Super low volume. I just think Manon's going to come out here and double her up on strikes. And let's talk about the takedown defense in the get up game, right? Because they have a common opponent named Jennifer Maia. When Jennifer Maia took down Valentina, it was like life alert, help, I've fallen and can't get up. Whereas when Jennifer Maia took down Manon popped right back up right away. I think it's gonna be very hard for Valentina to mix in her takedowns here. And I think she's gonna be surprised that someone can actually compete with her like this standing. So I'm going Manon and new. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got the featured bout between the all-time legend Jose Aldo. He's 32-9, taking on Aiemann Zahabi, who's 12-2 currently. They got it. Aldo -190, Zahabi +165. Aaron, I know. I swear I've seen you and Zahabi on the mic together before. What do you think about your boys' fight here against the all-time legend?
Yeah, so I'm going to come at this, I'm sure, from a place of bias because Aiemann is like he works with us at Sportsnet, so I think that like Aiemann is an extremely smart fighter, and he's great at making adjustments. And I think that against a guy like Jose Aldo, he's going to have to do that a lot. Like I think that Aldo's going to throw a lot of different looks at him. But I think that like in terms of output, they're pretty similar, at least in recent fights over the course of 3 rounds as to how many strikes they're landing. And I think it's just going to come down to who lands the better strikes in this fight. And typically that would likely be Aldo, right? But at the same time, I think that what we've seen from Zahabi in recent fights is that his counters have been really on point and his accuracy has been really high. So with him at like plus 170 right now, plus 175 range, like I think you're getting a good price on him as an underdog. He's got all the momentum right now. Aldo's coming off a loss. He looks great against Martinez, so it is a difficult fight to, pin down. But I'll go with the homer pick and take Aiemann as an underdog. I just think that right now he's really come into his own, and he's not a guy that gets into a lot of trouble in fights. He fights very economically. He's very good at hitting and not getting hit. Against Aldo, easier said than done, but I'm gonna go with him as the underdog play.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this one next. So big respect to Zahabi getting on this win streak and even making it to a fight with Jose Aldo. If you would have told me that a few years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, right, dude. But the fact that he made it here, amazing. You love to see it. But there's a big misconception in this fight. People think that this is like a young prospect versus a legend, and it's actually a legend versus a vet. I mean, my boy Zahabi was born in 87, Aldo in 86, but I'm just saying the way people are talking about this fight is it's like some passing of the torch type fight. No, it's not. Zahabi, listen, I love the late career resurgence. I really do. He's a smart fighter. He seems like a really nice guy, heart of gold, but like, Aldo still got it. Look, Aldo might not make another title run, but Aldo can still compete with legit top 15 guys. And I think that Aiemann Zahabi is going to be surprised how explosive Jose Aldo still is in the pocket, how educated a fighter he is, how hard he is to take down. Look, obviously there's a chance that at any point when you're dealing with a legend that's retired before, that doesn't quite have those title aspirations, you never know when they could start losing the guys they would have once beat. But I still think even in their current forms, Jose Aldo is just a better fighter than Aiemann Zahabi. And for that reason, I think he wins the decision here. What do you think, James Lynch?
I'm going the other way. I like Aldo here, and as far as Aaron's pick, and part of it comes down to, I think, something we're not really looking too close at is look at who Zahabi's beat in his current run. You've got Javid Bashrat, which he hasn't done so well since losing to Zahabi. He got knocked out in his last fight. You got Arichi Lang. You got Pedro Munoz, who I think he's still on the roster, but he's also nearing the end of his career. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with some of the stuff he did in those fights against Jose Aldo. He's a seasoned veteran, and let's not forget that last fight against Mario Batista, very controversial as far as what Batista did, holding him up against the cage, and fans were upset. I don't know if Zahabi's going to be able to do that same thing. I think, if the fight stays standing, which it should, I think Aldo, he doesn't have that knockout power anymore. I mean, we're not going to get the Aldo, kneeing Cub Swanson and knocking him out and that type of stuff, but we are still going to see a little bit of pop in his shots, and I think his striking's still good enough where he can win a decision here. So I'm looking at Aldo by decision to kind of bring it down a little bit more. Zahabi is pretty tough to finish. If you look at his career, I think, what is he? He's only been knocked out one time in his entire career. Outside of that,
I like a once in a lifetime spin too.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. So I just think that this is a situation where I think Aldo gets back on the winning track. I think it's nice for Zahabi. Like it's a great story, right? Like if you remember Zahabi losing to like Vince Morales a couple of years ago, like, I don't think there was a lot of expectation, but he's gone on a nice run here. But the age, you just mentioned it there. He's getting up there. Aldo's not exactly young either, but I think Aldo still has a little bit more to offer. And Aldo's been fighting, in my opinion, much tougher competition. I think Aldo gets the decision here.
Dravi?
Yeah, I share similar thoughts. I view this one as a very competitive fight. I also believe it's going to go the distance, and I think neither of one's going to be running away with it. I think it's going to be like a 29-28 type fight where it's low volume, they're striking, it's very competitive. But, at the end of the day, we're talking numbers, we're talking bettings and all that, and I just view more intangible on the side of Zahabi in the sense that, he's fighting at home. The crowd's gonna be behind him, and I think on volume and on minute and the striking, they're gonna be close with each other. I really do. And then a thing about Zahabi that I think we need to give him credit for is his fight IQ and the game plan he has going into fights with his brother. Is really very well known in the space, obviously, and also Dan or GSP, however you want to call it, it's gonna be in his corner for this fight, and I think he's going to know the game plan, which is you can hold down Jose Aldo in the clinch. He doesn't have an answer when that happened to him. And it's not only his last fight, it's a lot of his fights. And he even said himself in interviews, he still talked about the Batista loss and how devastated he was about that fight. And he still has that fight in his mind, but it seems like he's maybe not focused on the target Saturday night, And you talk about the retirement and all that, Dan, that's something I don't like, because when we get a legend like him, again, like Valentina, done it all, but he retired from MMA. He went to go do boxing, and then he came back. So What happened if Jose Aldo lose this fight? Is he gonna retire again? I think
I
that's
hope so.
I think that's possible.
Of course.
And I just feel like Zahabi, again, it's just a spot where I feel like with a win here, he has like everything to win. Whereas Jose Aldo, if he beats Zahabi, what is that going to do for his career? Not much, you know? And then looking into the matchup is a thing that stuck out to me is the striking defense of Zahabi. It's elite for MMA. It's set at 71% striking defense. We don't see these type of number often. So he's hard to it and he has underrated power. So I feel like he's going to match Aldo on volume because Aldo doesn't throw as much as he used to. He doesn't throw a leg kick as much as he used to. So I think they're going to be close on volume, but 29-28 type fight, close decision. The guy fighting at home, the crowd's going to go behind him. I'm going to pick him for the upset. But again, it's a fight where I think it's going to be very close and should be lying closer to a pick 'em. Kind of similar to the main event. And the odds kind of similar. So I'm going to have to lean with Zahabi.
Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between the former champion, Alexa Grasso. She's 16-4-1, taking on Natalia Silva, who's 18-5-1. Currently, they got it. Natalia Silva minus 255. The comeback on Alexa Grasso is plus 215. I got to admit, guys, I'm a huge fan of Natalia Silva. I'm a believer in this girl. I think that she's amazing. I think that she's a future title challenger for sure. So well-rounded, so athletic, so smart. I love everything about her game. Like that last fight against Andrade, like just it puts a smile on my face watching that performance. That's one of the most beautiful hit and run performances I've seen in a very, very long time. When you're dealing like with someone like Andrade who's just trying to take your head off, and Andrade landed a couple clean ones to the chin, and I love Natalia's composure, man. She didn't start to kind of break. She didn't start to shoot desperately. She took her shots, and then she lands a nice side kick that drops Jessica Andrade. And I liked in the pocket how she dealt with Andrade, but then I also loved the footwork, the takedown defense, everything. And that takedown defense she showed against Jasmine was unbelievable. She's knocked girls out with spins to the face. Like I like everything about Natalia Silva. And like I talked about earlier with Alexa, you know, there's certain areas where you need to be careful, like, you know, trading hands in the pocket with Alexa, or you know, you got to be aware if you take her down, she wants you to take her down because she loves playing jiu-jitsu off her back. But I think if Natalia is aware of these things, and I fully expect her to be, I think she's going to cruise by Alexa Grasso and make the kind of statement where people are like, she should be fighting for the title next. You know, maybe she can skip someone like Erin Blanchfield. You never know. But bottom line, I'm going I'm going Natalia Silva to come out here in 30-27. Alexa Grasso. What do you think, Bronstetter?
You know, I'm kind of with you in terms of how much I like Natalia Silva's game. I think she's phenomenal. I love that the way that she gets in and out quickly. Her technique is fantastic, but I just can't get past this line. There's too much value on Alexa Grasso here. Like at plus 215, removed from 3 straight fights against Valentina Shevchenko, the highest level of division, one of which she won, second of which I had her winning on the scorecards. I know that fight ended up being a draw. Third fight, she looked terrible. And we've all talked about on the show about how she didn't show up in that fight and didn't look good at all. So are we going to let recency bias allow us to pass on a plus 215 Alexa Grasso price where just from a matchup perspective, she matches up really well against Natalia Silva. Her counter boxing, if you're going to be telegraphing kicks of Natalia Silva and her taekwondo, counter boxing is just about as good as it gets in terms of a weapon against that style. Alexa also, I think, is going to be able to offer better takedowns stylistically than the previous opponents that Silva faced, because she doesn't really shoot naked takedowns. A lot of her takedowns are usually reactive takedowns. I just can't leave a plus 215 price on the table for somebody who was the champion in her last fight against someone who hasn't faced great competition just yet. I mean, I know Jessica Andrade is good, but at 125 pounds, she's not what she is at 115 pounds. We've seen that. I got to go with Grasso, like plus 215, just strictly from a value standpoint. I know what I'm getting out of Grasso. I know how good she is. And as much as I love Natalia Silva's game, I think that this price is just inflated. And I don't think I could comfortably take her in a women's MMA fight where volatility is always off the charts at minus 255.
James Lynch, where are you at with this?
Yeah. I'm with Natalia Silva on this one. For me as well, it's that last performance against Valentina. Like, is this a regression? Like, I'm not entirely sure. And by the way, I know you mentioned Diego Lopez. I don't know if they trained together this camp because Diego, I know, was in Vegas training with like his manager and stuff. They have a gym there. I don't know how much he got to work or Alexa got to work with him. I haven't checked his Instagram lately, but I mean, he just lost not that long ago. I don't imagine he's been a big help for Grasso this camp. So I don't know if that's a positive or negative. Also, I mentioned this before. Something happened with her and Lupi Godinez because they don't follow each other on Instagram anymore, and Lupi now trains here in BC, and I think that was a good training partner for her, so that's something to maybe keep an eye on too, like what type of training she's getting there. So I think with Silva, it's a changing of the guard. I'll never forget that Jasmine fight. I was talking to someone about this today. Like, for whatever reason, Jasmine like made it out like Silva like offended her, and it almost like it reminded me like Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey, where like Ronda got in Holly's face and Holly, like, the beast came out. Same thing happened in that fight with Silva. Like, she beat down Jasmine. No one has done that to Jasmine Jasudavicius in her career, and that's a fight that really sticks out to me because Jasmine's had a lot of success since then. She's had, I think, the one loss to Tracy Cortez, but you've seen that dominance from her, and I don't think she'll do that to Alexa Grasso, but I think this is a changing of the guard fight where you are going to see someone that's really leveled up, and I think with Grasso, I think there's some questions. So yeah, Natalia Silva decision for me, and I don't think it'll be controversial. Like, I get the line thing, like, for sure, like the line's definitely off here. In fact, Nick Kalikas on Gambler's Perspective today, he's going with Grasso too. I understand it, but I got to take Silva here. I probably won't be betting this one, but I'll be sitting back and watching for sure.
Dravi?
Yeah. I also believe that Silva's gonna win a decision in this one. The thing with Grasso is sometimes she doesn't do enough. That's kind of the problem. And again, that's a fight where I see Natalia Silva landing more volume, doing more. And I think in the big cage with her footwork and her kick, it's going to be hard for Grasso to track her and land damage. And then Natalia Silva takedown defense is elite. So I don't think Grasso's going to have, any success with the wrestling. And then on the feet, I just think Silva is going to be the one outpointing her, doing more over 15 minutes. I think we either see a 30-27 or maybe a 29-28. I feel like the best case for Grasso in this fight is to win a round. I think you go the distance at a high clip where I think Silva get it done by decision. I'll say 30-27 like Dan mentioned.
Now, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Benoit Saint-Denis. He's 13-3, taking on Mateus. Oh, wait, no, he turned that fight down. Taking on Kyle Prepolec, who's 18-8. Currently, they got it. Benoit Saint-Denis -900. The comeback on Kyle Prepolec is +600. Listen, shout out Kyle Prepolec. Firstly, he's a very, very nice person. Every year on Facebook, he wishes me a happy birthday. So thanks, Kyle. Like, that's really nice of you, man. And just the fact that, like, you were probably sitting on your couch and you got a call, not just to come back to the UFC, but to fight like a ranked guy like Benoit Saint-Denis, who has been fighting the Dustin Poiriers, the Moicanos, the this, the that. So, man, big balls on the kid. You love to see it. James Lynch, I know you're very, very familiar with Kyle Prepolec. What kind of chances are you giving him here? And also, have you been impressed with his recent run? He's been putting on some wins.
Yeah, so a couple things about this. I'm very happy for Kyle. I know Kyle quite well. One of the first in-person interviews I ever did, if you go look at my YouTube channel, I think he's like number 4 or whatever. That back in the day, he fought for Global Warriors in Ontario, which now became BTC. Listen, I think they picked the wrong guy here, unfortunately. It's too bad Michael Dufort's coming off a loss because he should have got the call, in my opinion. Unfortunately, he was coming off a loss in PFL, and I think that's why the UFC didn't sign him instead of Kyle. They were supposed to fight this Friday, so you mentioned Kyle being off the couch. He actually was preparing for a fight. The Samurai is an event the night before, so they were actually ready to to fight there. So he's had a camp. That's good. He's 35. Like, I don't like this about the UFC where they're kind of just filling in a hole and they're not thinking long term. Like, let's be honest. I'd love it if Kyle pulled off the upset. I think it would be great and good story and all that. But what's the future for him in the UFC at this point? He struggled in the UFC his first run. He lost 2 fights. One of them was up a weight class against Nordine Taleb. The other one was against Austin Hubbard in Vancouver, which was not that great of a fight, and he ended up losing that. So listen, Kyle's a tough guy to finish. I'll give him that. I don't blame Benoit Saint-Denis for turning down Gamrot. Like, he really needs to build himself back up. That these last 2 fights have not gone his way. I would be shocked if it's anything other than Benoit Saint-Denis getting a finish. But listen, Kyle's got nothing to lose here. This wasn't supposed to happen. There's always something dangerous in that too. Tristan Connolly beat Michel Pereira when he wasn't supposed to win. This could be another Canadian miracle type fight here, but I have a really hard time seeing Kyle win this fight because he doesn't have knockout power, doesn't have really good submissions. You even look at the 4-1 run he's had. It's not like anything that really stands out. Benoit Saint-Denis should finish this fight. I'm going second round finish for Benoit Saint-Denis.
Yeah, to their credit for booking this fight, I mean, it's not like this is what they try to do. You know, they first try to do Benoit and Joel, then they try to do Benoit and Gamera, and it's like, fuck, like, let's at least get a Canadian who's got all his medicals and his papers in order. We know he's got his visa. Like, we know we're all good here. So, like, I think they just went with the safer option after, like, just running out of, like, you know, it was just an unfortunate situation. And blame Benoit's coach on that Gamera thing, because I heard the Gamera fight was actually pretty close to happening, and then Benoit's coach allegedly stepped in and was like, I don't think so. Bronstetter, what kind of chance are you giving Prepolec in comparison to his plus 600 price tag?
Give him a plus 600 chance of winning the fight. I'll take the under 1.5. It's like minus 170. I think that's solid value. I don't think this fight goes very long. And listen, if Kyle's going to win, that's probably his best case scenario too, is to get an early finish. I don't know if he wants to try to gut out a decision against Benoit Saint-Denis. But there's not really much of a menu right now for this fight. Like, all you have is the total, and you have the money line, and you're not going to get, like, nobody's taking Benoit. I mean, listen, some people, I'm sure, if they want to put together a chalk parlay or something, you'll take him at minus 1,000. But, like, I don't know, what are we doing here? I feel like we need to wait and see some of the other props that come out before we can really come up with any sort of way for anybody to do anything with this fight.
Dravi?
Yeah, I'm not going to wait too much on this one. I'll lean under 1.5 round, like Aaron just mentioned. I think that's the way to go. And yeah, I'll just mention the step down in competition for BSD is massive in this one compared to the people he's used to fight recently. Yeah, and the step up in competition for Prepolec on short notice is just massive. So it's just a level fight for me, honestly. So BSD should handle business and get a finish. I'm just not sure what round it's going to be and what method it's going to be, but he should get it done, get back on track. The thing about the Gamera fight, I've listened to BSD interview, and he said in French that he didn't turn down that fight and he was not afraid of him. So maybe, like Dan mentioned, maybe that's his coach that decided for him. But he said that he was not scared of Gamera. He said with his 0% finish rate, he said he was ready to fight him. But I don't know if that's his coach, whoever made that decision. I know his coach is very smart, so maybe he decided no, and we're going to take an easy fight. I don't really know, but for what it's worth, BSD said he didn't refuse the fight. But
I'll say this. Sorry to cut you off, Dan, but
are you good?
Saint Denis loses to Poirier gets a title shot, loses to Moicano gets a title shot. If Prepolec wins, I'm getting that bandwagon started that Prepolec gets the next shot at Islam. So I'm going to get some shirts printed. I want you guys to wear, Prepolec for title shot shirts if he gets it done.
Yeah, and
that's the trend.
We're too late to vote him in for the Canadian election, but maybe a title shot will do, But listen, guys, I agree with y'all. Our first consensus pick of the night. I know we're not breaking any ground here with a minus 900 or anything like that, but it's the first time the four of us have agreed on a pick tonight. Listen, and you're right, Dravi. It wasn't Benoit that turned down the Gamera fight. It was his coach. Benoit said yes, but like last minute, his coach. I wasn't there, but what I was told from a very good source, because I was told like a day before it came out that Gamera actually got offered the fight. But yeah, I was told that everything was good to go, and then Benoit's coach was like, no thanks, let's fight Kyle Prepolec, you know what I'm saying? But listen, this is going to be a good bounce back for Benoit Saint-Denis. He's physical. I actually like when he gets taken down. He's got a really nice butterfly sweep, big head kick, big bombs, and most importantly, insane heart. All the way back to that debut against Zaleski, this guy's willing to take a beating. And even in that Moicano fight, I know he wanted to continue too, but here I don't think he's going to take as much damage as those guys dished out. In fact, I think he's going to be the one dishing out the damage. So yeah, I agree with y'all there. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between proper Mike Malott, Canada's own. He's 11-2-1. Taking on Chuck Buffalo Charles Radtke, who's 10-4, who is definitely not Canada's own. And currently, they got it. Mike Malott, minus 170. The comeback on Charles Radtke is plus 145. So I know. Now, I forget if it was earlier this year or if it was late last year, but, there was a very famous match between USA and Canada, and unfortunately, us Americans had to take a big fat L. So we're not off to a good start here. And, usually we don't really care about, this kind of rivalry because I don't really view it like a rivalry, but Radtke has made this a rivalry. This is USA versus Canada. So I got to know from my Canadian brothers, James Lynch. I mean, firstly, let me say this, because I know early in the show you were like, Canadians have a reputation for being nice and stuff. Dude, when I was watching tape on Mike Malott, Okay, the Magny fight. What's the crowd saying? Fuck you, Magny. And then we go to the Giles fight. What's the crowd saying? Fuck you, Giles. I'm like, damn, these Canadians ain't soft like everyone's saying. These Canadians get behind their own. And then when they're not saying F you to the opponent, they're saying, Mikey, Mikey. So this guy, besides, you know, some of the more popular fighters on the main card, this guy is going to get the loudest crowd reception out of anyone on this entire card. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and he's got, you know, kind of an arrogant but hard-hitting guy in Radtke in front of him, James Lynch. What do you think the atmosphere is going to be like for this one, and who do you ultimately see getting the dub?
Well, let's clarify here. That's UFC Canadian fans, and then the rest of Canada. I mean, they're a little bit different, right? A little bit more rowdy. But yeah, in all seriousness,
Are they not like that at hockey games, though?
A little, yeah. It depends on the arena. Honestly, like it's every crowd's a little bit different. Montreal's a really loud arena. You know, it's I mean, anyone's been to a Montreal Canadiens game. It's one of the loudest in the league. But as far as this fight goes, yeah, it's interesting. I wasn't that impressed with Malott's last fight. You know, that's one where, and granted, it was a bounce back, and obviously needed to win. He had to switch up an opponent and stuff. But you know, I think Radtke's an absolute, you know, dog in this fight, and I think he's someone that could give Malott some problems. Now, look, I think Malott's fixed a lot of the things that has happened before. He was kind of thrust into the UFC, and you know, there's a lot of, you know, people backing him, a lot of hype and all that stuff. And you know, let's not forget he was winning that Magny fight. It's just, you know, cardio took over, and it's lack of cardio, I should say, and then he ended up getting finished there. But I think this fight, you know, the odds do favor Malott. I think people are understanding that, okay, maybe not as, you know, talented as we maybe thought in some of those other fights, and he was fighting some easier competition. I mean, Adam Fugit, I remember in Vancouver, like that was a fairly easy matchup for him. But I think Radtke's one of these guys that's going to bring it to him. I think this is going to be close. I could see Malott winning like a 29-28 decision. I don't know if he'll finish Radtke. And I think with Malott too, you just got to go out there and get the win. I don't know if we're going to see as many risks from him as far as trying to finish the fight. That's sort of what he was known for early in his career. But, you know, as he saw in the Magny fight, if you can't finish someone, you can run into some problems late in that fight. So I'm expecting him a lot win here. I don't think it's a slam dunk, you know, easy win for him. I think Radtke will certainly, you know, bring his all. And, yeah, I just think as far as the crowd, yeah, of course, Malott and Kyle Prepolec and Jasmine are going to get the biggest pops, I think, for sure.
Aaron Bronstetter?
Yeah, I think that you're getting good value on Malott actually at -170. I thought that he'd be like a -300 in this fight. I don't know why the line's moving in the opposite direction, but I think that Malott wins and he gets a stoppage in this fight. In fact, I like the submission at +350. I think there's good value on that because I think that his path of least resistance is to take Charlie Radtke down and finish him on the ground. And I think that if Radtke tries to initiate the wrestling, that's where we've seen Malott really shine because he's so opportunistic when it comes to those sort of exchanges. So I'm all over Mike Malott in this fight at this line. I think that there's a lot of value on him. And like looking at Charlie Radtke's previous wins, not super impressed with them, to be honest. I think that Mike Malott is just a better, more well-rounded fighter that can really win this fight anywhere. So give me Mike Malott at -165.
Dravi?
I lean the same way. I think Malott should get it done. I just think he has more ways to win and can decide where the fight take place. Very, very good kicks, very good body kicks, and I think it could be the difference on the feet where we're going to see Radtke trying to, you know, chase him, trying to get in the pocket and get to his left hook, which is very powerful. But outside of that, I think at distance, Mike's going to do more. And like Aaron mentioned, I think that on the ground, we've seen Radtke struggle on the regional scene, and even though he's a good grappler, training with good guys like Belal and all of them, I think Malott grappling is very good. And if he gets on top, I think he can win minutes there. I think he can win minutes on the feet and could potentially finish the fight. Whereas Radtke, outside of, you know, Mike getting tired in round 3, which happened in the past, or landing a big shot and ending the night, I don't really see how he's going to win this fight personally. So I think Mike Malott should handle business. And now that the line is going down, I feel like there's the values on him at the moment. I think he should be around -230, 70%. So yeah, I think he's the right side here, and maybe a buy low spot. But if you like only Radtke money, and he seems to be a very popular underdog, so maybe if you like that side, you could wait and maybe get -150 range on Mike Malott.
Listen, I mean, I get it if you took Radtke +210, +205, +200, even +175. I completely get it. But now at +145, I think the value has left the station, man. And look, I got to give Radtke a lot of credit. You know, he's got a nasty left hook, man. He's hurt 3 of his 4 UFC opponents badly with that left hook. That Blood Diamond fight, I know it was a real ugly fight, but you gotta you got to give context that he got kicked in the balls like 5 times in that fight. He also had to fly down under. It was his first UFC fight. He still clearly won, but like, besides all that, in that first round, he landed a left hook and he had Blood Diamond doing an insane chicken dance. And that's when I first kind of realized his power will translate at the UFC level. And then those next 2 wins he had, the Urbina win and the Semmelsberger win, it's like he gets these big reactions from that left hook. So that's obviously something that Mike's going to have to look out for, because Mike gets his nose broken like in almost every single fight. Like I remember even in the Gall fight, he was getting his face bloodied up. But what was funny was when he beat Johan Lainez, there was do you remember like the thrill and the agony that the UFC kind of used to post back in the day? Yeah, so they posted one of those, and Mike Malott, when he was walking backstage, he was like, wow, I finally didn't get my nose broken. Like that's like the first fight where that hasn't happened, right? So the reason I'm bringing that up is because like him getting his nose broken in a lot of fights means he's there to be hit, and you do not want to get hit by Chuck Buffalo. So there is a knockout chance for the Buffalo. But that being said, guys, if Chuck Buffalo can't get that knockout, then what? Then what? I do not think he's going to take down Mike Malott without a serious guillotine attempt waiting for him. I don't think he's going to outkick Malott, and I don't think I really think that Radtke's biggest path to victory is just letting those hands go. Like, I think Mike Malott is a much better martial artist. I just kind of think Radtke's a little bit tougher. Like you saw that in the Magny fight. That was kind of a stunt. And then also in that Giles fight, that was a really ugly fight, like James Lynch mentioned. It really was. But I definitely scored it for Malott. And I have to bring that up because Giles was like writing a whole paragraph about how he got robbed. But he stopped throwing after round 1. So I don't understand how he thinks that. But that being said, this fight could go a variety of ways, but at the current odds, as a pure pick, I'll go with Malott. But I do understand the underdog action at, like I said, in the plus 200s, in the high 170s. But here at 45, I think the value's left the station, and I'll take Malott as a pure pick. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between the future Hall of Famer Jessica Andrade. She's 26-13, taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's 13-3. Currently, they got it Jasmine Jasudavicius minus 300. The comeback on Jessica Andrade is plus 250. So Jasmine Jasudavicius has been calling herself the female GSP for a long time. Shout out my boy GSP. I didn't see it until recently. Now I see it. Now I know exactly what she's talking about. And, I know a big talking point is, Jazz is 35, 36, but back to kind of like the Belal talk where like, Belal's never had a sip of alcohol in his life. Now, I don't think that's the case for Jasmine, but what I will say is Jasmine's a young 35, 36. She does not have the same kind of miles as, most competitors in the UFC around that age range. And I mean, my proof is like she's getting better every single fight. And she really is. And that Mayra Bueno Silva fight, I understand Bueno has kind of been going through it mentally a little bit, but going into that fight, I thought for sure that Jasmine has to take this fight to the ground or else she's screwed. And I really like how she conducted herself on the feet. She's got composure. She wasn't just being her kind of normal, relentless self, not even thinking, just going out there and swinging. I like how measured she was in there. And when it was time to, mix in those level changes, she got the takedown every single time. And here with Andrade, we know what Andrade brings to the table. Andrade is going to run at you with big bombs in the pocket. She's going to wing, and we know that she's knocked many people out, whether it was Karolina Kowalkiewicz, whether it was Rose Namajunas, albeit with a slam, whether it was Mackenzie Dern, whether it was all the other women that she's hurt along the way. I mean, Jessica Andrade can crack. She even rocked Natalia Silva in that last fight. So I definitely think that Jasmine's going to be there to be hit, but like Jasmine's got a great chin and Jasmine just fights at such a relentless pace. And here, I think she's going to get back to that relentless pace because she's going to have to. And I think that there's a chance she gets on top of Andrade at some point in this fight. And whether it's a ground and pound TKO or a sub or a dominant decision, sorry to name every single method, but I think it's going to be dominance by Jasudavicius. And I do think she looks minus 300 here. Maybe one little scare along the way because Jessica can crack, but besides that, I think Jasmine's going to show out and move into the top 10 and potentially 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. So yeah, give me Jasmine Jasudavicius here, Aaron.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think that's the tricky thing with picking this fight is because all those outcomes you mentioned are all like distinct possibilities. But you know what? If you're looking at women's fights, more often than not, they go the distance. And I think that Jasmine by decision at plus 120, Like, I think that's probably your most likely outcome of this fight. Now, the thing that people don't realize, I think, about Jasmine, unless you kind of stood next to her, she had crazy reach. Like, I think she's got a 68-inch reach to Andrade's 61-inch reach. She's gonna have a massive reach advantage in this fight, and she's also a lot taller. Like, all of the different things that Andrade does to have success in these fights are kind of negated by that, because I think that Jasmine keep her at the end of her jab. I think she's going to throw a lot of teeps up the middle, and just kind of keep Andrade at range. Like, I actually don't think that Jasmine needs to do too much grappling to win this fight. But if she does, and she's able to get Andrade down, I think, like you said, ground and pound at like plus 650, plus 700 is certainly on the table as well. But I think more often than not, the outcome of this fight is Jasmine winning by decision.
Dravi?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Dan on the price, and I'll be a little bit more confident about the method. I think she's gonna beat her ass, like really bad. Jasmine top game at this level is elite, and she's massive for this division. We see Andrade, right, a little bit like Kevin Holland, in the sense that at 115 she's like a really like serious fighter, competing with the best, and when she go up to 125. She still go out there and can win fights. Don't get me wrong. She still compete, but she's outsized against these girls sometimes. And when Valentina, is too strong, get on top, get in the crucifix and ground and pound and all that, I think Jasmine can do the same thing. I think she's going to get her down. I don't think she's going to have a hard time doing so personally. And when she does, when she get on top, another girl like Jillian Robertson last week, they're vicious. Like, that's her nickname, right? They're not out there trying to win decision. They're out there trying to finish the fight. They're out there trying to scar damage. And these type of people, I like to have money on them, because I know they're going to try to do the most possible to get either their end raise at the end of the decision or finish the fight at any moment. And Andrade been finished multiple times in the UFC. I think it's like, if you look at it, don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 8 out of 11 of her losses or something around that. So normally when she loses, she get finished. And what does she struggle with? Grappler, big girl, strong girl. That's Jasmine game, right? So on the feet, am I worried a little bit? I am, because Jessica hit very hard and Jasmine is hittable. But to that point, I mean, she has a very, very good chin. She needs to be careful though, but like, her chin is very good. And I trust her to go out there, mix in the game plan and mix in the wrestling, get on top. And again, when she does, could she submit her? Yeah, that's possible. But if you look at the prices, and, I cashed on Jillian Robertson KO2 last week. I think it's probably a similar spot. If you guys want big numbers, big props, you look at Jasmine round 2, round 3 KOs. It's massive numbers on that. I think that's very live. That's actually what I'm going to predict to happen. I think she's going to go out there, get her to the ground later in the fight, get to a crucifix, and then the crowd's going to go crazy, and then the ref might step in. Could she get a sub? I also think that's possible. But I think that's because if you look into it in her UFC fights, there's like 2 of her fights, she got really close to a ground and pound finish. And like Dan mentioned, she's getting better and better every fight. And I think that's an opponent where she can bully on the ground, being stronger, being better. And that's her big fight, right? Finish this fight, and then you're going to get another big fight. And I think she's going to finish it, but not in round 1, because I think early on it could be competitive. But Jasmine also elite cardio, elite pace and pressure. And I think she's going to get to Andrade at some point and get the finish in round 2 and 3. So that's my prediction. And if you like big money, you look into these props, and Robertson 2.0, Jasmine by finish.
Come on, James Lynch, give it to us. Give it to us.
Yeah, no, I'm going to echo that. I actually kind of like Jasmine by finish too, because it's, if you look at her last couple of opponents, it's actually interesting. Most of her opponents are around like 5'6", similar reach. She's going to have a huge height and reach advantage. I think it's 6-inch height, 6-inch reach advantage in this fight. That's massive. And the one thing with Andrade as well, she does obviously still have power. Her last finish at 125, I think was like 5 years ago, like a knockout win, right? Like, I think it was Caitlin Chukagian, or I forget her last name now, but you know what I mean? Like, it's been a while since she's had a finish at 125. 115 is a different story. I don't think she does that. Jasmine's never been finished. In the UFC, it's a tall task. Again, the crowd's going to be in this. I could totally see this being one of these fights where it's like, now she's a contender because she like dominates Andrade and like, takes it in late and then gets the finish. I could totally see that happening. I don't know what Andrade is doing. She can't make up her mind with the weight class. I know she was hurting for money a bit too. So I just think this is a tailor-made fight for Jasmine to really get into that contender spot. And I think she does it. I'll go 3rd round finish, but I'll be looking for that Jasmine inside the distance prop as well.
Okay. Round 3. Nice. Now, next up In the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Modestas Bukauskas. He's 17-6, taking on Iwan Cutelaba, who's 19-10. Currently, they got it a dead pick 'em. Bukauskas -110, Cutelaba -110. Dravi, I gotta admit, man, at one point I kind of was done with Cutelaba, but now I'm kind of like, listen, man, he came into the UFC at 22, 23. Now he's 31, and it seems like, I hope, because I know he's historically inconsistent, but I hope that now he's finally putting together that consistency that we've wanted to see for a while. I mean, he wins this. That's a 3-fight win streak, which he's never had in his entire UFC career. He's entering his prime. He's outside his comfort zone. He's in the United States, as far as I know. And Bukauskas, he's won 4 of his last 5 in the UFC. So, Dravi, they're meeting each other at the literal best points of their respective careers. Who do you think wins this fight?
Yeah, looking into this one, there's 2 other fights we broke down on this card so far, and I said it should be a pick'em, but the price was like plus 180. But now that's a fight where it is a pick'em according to the odds, and I think it should be. I really view this one as a competitive fight where I lean to the Cutelaba side because of the grappling upside, because of the level of competition he's been fighting compared to Bukauskas, because Modestas, like you said, you won a couple fights, but then if you look into the names he's beating, you're like, oh, okay. And then more often than not, when he goes to decisions, some fights are very close margins. But I think in this matchup, he's the better striker. He's more technical. He's the cleaner guy, maybe better cardio. And I feel like he could outpoint Cutelaba, mix in the leg kicks and stuff like that. But also on the other hand, I think Cutelaba in round 1, he's very dangerous. He could crack Modesta, who's been cracked and finished before, and he could get on top, use his wrestling. So it's a fight where I think it's going to be very close, but I do give a little bit more finishing upside to Cutelaba, and I give him the grappling upside. He fought the better people. So if I were to bet this one or just picking someone, I'm going to lean to the Cutelaba side because I feel at the price he has more upside in this one. But it's a fight where I feel you could pick either man and make a case, and I'm not really going to disagree with it, but I'm going to go with Cutelaba to get it done.
Aaron?
Yeah. I slightly lean Bukauskas, but this is a really tough fight to call. I just think that Bukauskas is a little bit more well-rounded, but like you said, Cutelaba, like, he used to be kind of a spaz. It's kind of a weird word to use, like, where he would just make a lot of mistakes in fights and lose fights that he otherwise should have won. I think that he's really cleaned up his game, and that makes him a dangerous fighter. So yeah, again, like, I think there's a reason why this is a pick 'em fight. It's really difficult to call, but I'm going to lean Bukauskas, and I think that if you want a little bit of value, the Bukauskas sub prop is like 11-1. And I think that if this fight does get to the ground, if he does get top control at any point in this fight, I think the sub is going to be live for him, whether it's an arm triangle, rear naked choke. Cutelaba has been susceptible to getting submitted in the past. And I think that if you can get that kind of a line for someone like Bukauskas, who I think is an underrated grappler, I think you could get some nice value there. So I'm going to just lean Bukauskas ever so slightly.
James Lynch?
I saw both these guys fight a couple months ago at UFC Seattle. It's interesting they were on the same card and now they get matched up again. And obviously Modestas started the card off great with that big knockout. And then obviously Cutelaba, I believe, was an underdog and came through and got the win there over Erslan. So for me, I think this is like a coin flip. It really is. I look at the under here at 1.5 is plus 120. I like that a lot. I think these guys are going to come out and really, slug it out and keep that momentum going. I give a slight edge to Cutelaba, but I don't feel super great about it, guys. We've seen him, he's hit or miss. Like last fight, he looked great, but we've also seen fights where it's like, what are you doing? Like, how did this happen? How did you end up losing? So I'm going to lean Cutelaba on the pick, but this is one of the 50-50 fights on the card. I like the under, though, plus 120. Give me that.
Yeah, listen, if we're talking who do I think is the more talented guy with a higher ceiling, I think it's Cutelaba. I actually disagree with Aaron. I think Cutelaba is the more well-rounded guy. Like, I think he's got more takedown upside. Both of them have knockout upside, of course. But if I think one guy's going to mix it up, I mean, I say that, watch that not be the case. But, like, going into it, I think that Cutelaba is more likely to land the takedowns here. And I'm hoping maybe this is all BS, and like y'all have been saying, and like we've been seeing for his entire career, he is inconsistent. But I'm hoping now that he's actually reaching his physical prime, 31 years old, see, like those last 2 fights I thought were huge steps in the right direction. He's not painting his face green anymore at weigh-ins. Like, I feel like he's growing up a little bit. Like, so I'm hoping that's the case, because Bukauskas is a very beatable guy. Now, I like Bukauskas a lot. I think he's got a traditional martial arts background, and like, if you're not quite on the level of Bukauskas, oh my God, he's going to expose you. But I've think that Aiemann is like a fringe top 15 guy, meaning like I think he's top 20, top 25 right now, and he's 1 or 2 wins away from challenging some guys in the rankings. So yeah, I'm going Cutelaba here, man. I really rooting for him and hope that he can continue that momentum because I do think he's talented, just needs to put it together. Let's see if he does or not. Now, next up, also in the light heavyweight division, we got a matchup between Navajo Stirling. He's 6-0, taking on Ivan Erslan, who's 14-4. Currently, they got it. Navajo Stirling minus 305. The comeback on Ivan Erslan's plus 255. I think this is a tough one. And when it's tough and you see a price like this, you might consider a dog or pass situation. But I'm curious if you all agree with me. James Lynch, do you have like what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think from a betting perspective, it's dog or pass. Navajo Stirling didn't really impress me in his last fight. You know, Tuco's a guy that I know it took him a couple tries to get in the UFC. He had that, I think, road to UFC fight that didn't go, and then he got it on short notice. I don't think too highly of Tuco either, as far as like a good fighter. And this, to me, was a fight that was kind of lined up for Navajo Stirling to look great. We know he trains at City Kickboxing. You know, they always are pushing those guys. I don't know. I'm a little hesitant. I need to see a little bit more from Stirling personally, like to feel confident in him. He's only got 6 fights. He should win, but minus 290, I don't think so. It's dog or pass for me if you're going to do this. If I got to pick, I'm going Stirling. That's who the UFC likes. I think they're very good about matchmaking certain fighters earlier in their career. I think he ends up winning another decision here, but tough fight for me to bet on his side.
Bronstetter?
Yeah, I think dog or pass is probably the right way to look at it from a value standpoint, but I think the most likely outcome is Navajo winning by decision.
Dravi?
Yeah, we're gonna disagree, so it make the show a little bit fun. I think the price is justified personally. I'm not high on Erslan. If you look into his regional run, the guys he's fighting, there's a lot of fights he's getting hurt. He got KO'd in the past, and looking into this one, I was really looking forward to see if Erslan would maybe have grappling upside, because if I want to bet against Stirling right now, I want a guy that's is going to try to grapple. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And Erslan is not that guy. Like, he's a boxer. And to me, looking into this one, is Stirling has so many more weapons on the feet. He's the better striker. And I think he's going to put his lights out. I feel like people might be a little bit low on him because of his last performance, which was not the best. But then you're one of the guys that said often, sometimes your UFC debut, you don't look as good. And then the next fight you come out and you look way better. And to Tuchel credit, he did try to grapple. He mixed up the takedowns and all that, and that's something I don't think Erslan's gonna do, which gonna make Stirling look more comfortable. That's not his debut anymore. He's gaining experience. Went 15 minutes. So yeah, the guy that he knocked out on Dana White Contender Series, I did a lot of tapes going into it. I bet Stirling in that spot, and that guy is a better striker than Erslan in my opinion, and he's also very durable. And Stirling was able to find a kill shot. And I think here in this fight, he's going to be able to find a kill shot and put Erslan down. So I think he should be a big favorite. But if you think Erslan could knock him out early, then maybe he could be a live dog. But outside of that, I don't really see how he win. I think he could get, if you go to distance, he's going to get outwork, outpoint over 15 minutes. But I also believe that Stirling is way more likely to knock him out than the other way around. And I don't see grappling upside for Erslan. So to me, it's a Stirling spot. And I think that he has high ceiling in the division. If you look the shape that he's in, the guy is ready and put the work in. I think his frame and his size for the division is gonna, he's gonna go far. Unless he meet a very good grappler, which we don't see that often. I like heavyweight. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Man, I hate to come on here and not have like a strong opinion, a strong take, and I want to, but like I just don't know, because Navajo Stirling is so green, but he's got little glimpses of things that I like. Obviously, you mentioned, the physicality and the size for the weight class, but he comes from City Kickboxing, right? Like, that's understood. Yeah, he's got that style, right? He's just kind of like, when you think about like Carlos Ulberg and Israel Adesanya, this guy Navajo Stirling came into the UFC a lot greener than those two. So he's kind of trying to do what they do, but on a much, on a developing level. Whereas Erslan, he's not as talented as Navajo Stirling, but when he came into the UFC, I kind of viewed him as like the white Jimmy Manoa. Like, that's literally how I see him fight. Just tight combinations in the pocket, big power. And like you were saying, Dravi, that Navajo kind of didn't really like impress much in that debut. I just watched it before we came on here, and I see exactly what you're saying. Like, he clearly won every round, of course, but like some of those spins were so slow and like the timing was weird. And there were a couple grappling exchanges where you think a better guy is going to take advantage here. So yeah. And then Erslan has a lot of experience, but also in his debut, he didn't quite live up to it, but he was in there with a really tough guy, you know, a guy who I think is a top 25 guy. So I don't know, guys. I think it's a dog or pass situation. Like, sure, I can see Stirling, you know, being favored, but I'm not sure I agree with you with Dravi on minus 300 being justified. But I'm also not like, I don't have enough conviction to plant my flag on Erslan. I just don't know. And in cases where I don't know, I take the dog. So let's go Ivan Erslan. Let's see what happens. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Marc Andre Barriault. He's 16-9, taking on Bruno Blindado Silva, who's 23-12. Currently, they got it. Barriault minus 135. The comeback on Bruno Blindado's plus 115. Aaron, the way I describe these guys is obviously they're great to watch. You know, Marc Andre Barriault, like a hockey enforcer, you know, he'll get that single collar tie, uppercuts, you know what I'm saying? You love to watch him fight. And Bruno Blindado came into the UFC, 20 knockouts on his record, knocked out real guys in Russia before he came into the UFC. I'm talking about Alexander Shlemenko. I'm talking about Artem Frolov, not Artem Lobov, Artem Frolov, right? Who was like this 11-0 Russian at the time. Blindado is a real knockout artist, but we all know he has not been the same since the Pereira fight. To be one of the only guys to take that whooping from Pereira and not go down. Oh my God. Like at what cost? Well, the cost was unfortunately his soul. So now when I describe their current form, it's like, yes, Barriault lost his chin, but Bruno Silva lost his soul. So it's very unfortunate. So for that reason, I do have to take Barriault unless I see something from Silva that shows his heart is back in it because he is that dangerous. I'm gonna have to go Barriault. Where do you sit on this one, Bronstetter?
You've got to be an absolute crazy person to bet Bruno Silva in this spot based on what we saw in his last fight. Like you have to basically just be like, oh, well, let's just pretend that fight didn't happen because he looked about as bad as I've ever seen a UFC fighter look in a fight in his fight against Nordiev. He just looked terrible. He looked like he had no interest in being in the fight and that he'd rather be absolutely anywhere else. And he actually admitted before that fight that in the fight prior to that, he was having, or actually, sorry, I think he admitted after that fight that he had like an anxiety attack and basically just like wanted to not be in the fight for the entire time. And like that was like how recently was that fight? Because here, let me pull it up. I've got it in front of me here. So that fight was in October. So how many months ago is that? We're talking about like 5 months ago. So we're gonna just assume that in 5 months he's been able to like clear like a career altering mental hurdle. At least with Marc Andre Barriault, I know that every time he comes out there, he's going to be fighting for money. He's in one of the best middleweight rooms in the entire world at Team Killcliff. He drove a trailer from Quebec to park it outside of Team Killcliff to move there, so he could be part of that team. You have to go with Barriault here at minus 140. I don't see any other way that you can bet this fight because his last fight against Stoltzfus, he made a massive error. He chased. And I thought that like he wanted to get one back. Stoltzfus took him down, was controlling him. He got up, he chased him, he got knocked out and paid the price for that. Prior to that, got knocked out by Joe Piper. That's not that was probably the most likely result of that fight. And then he had that fight with Chris Curtis was like a phone booth blood and guts affair. They were just throwing strikes at each other like a hockey fight. And he held his own in that fight. I'm going to go with Barriault at minus 140. I just don't see how you can look at what we saw in that last fight from Bruno Santos. And if he wins Bruno Silva, if he wins this fight, credit to him because he's overcome a massive, mental barrier that has allowed him to start performing again. But you can't comfortably take him at plus 120 against anybody on the UFC roster.
Real quick, because I know you got to leave right now to go to a concert. Just give me a quick pick on Daniel Santos versus Lee and a quick pick on Brad Katona versus Bezcat.
All right, I appreciate you getting me out of there. And I did carry on a little bit long on that last one. But I'll take Daniel Santos. I think that he's the value in that fight. I think that he's the better fighter. And then I'll take Brad Katona. I think Brad Katona as an underdog is he's fought really well, strangely, against Baltic fighters in his career. I don't know what it is, but he seems to have like a recipe for them. And he's done a really good job of downloading during his fights and picking up on patterns of his opponents and exploiting them. And Almakhan looked good against Umar, but Umar really didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare for him. This is a full camp for Katona. I like Brad Katona, and it's kind of a must-win for Brad, to be honest, in this fight. So give me Brad Katona there as well.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us right here, right now on Half the Battle. Enjoy the concert. They can follow you at Aaron Bronstetter. Any message for the fans before I get you out of here?
Thank you to the fans. My glorious, I would be nowhere without my fans. So thank you. You can go to www.aaron.report for all of my links. Appreciate you guys. James, nice catching up to you. Nice to meet you, Dravi, and appreciate you having me on, Dan.
Pleasure as always. Enjoy the show, buddy. So now we got to get y'all's takes on this fight. So James Lynch, Barriault or Bruno Blindado?
I'm going to go Barriault as well. I actually got to get out of here too because I got to go pick up my kid. But I will give you the lowdown here. At Barriault, I'll take him. Not super confident. To me, him and Silva are kind of in the same boat where, haven't been super impressive as of late. Barriault's, from Montreal, homecoming fight for him. I think this is his first fight in Montreal because they haven't been back since DJ and Horiguchi, where DJ submitted him at the last second and they closed up the upper section of the Bell Center because ticket sales were bad. I was at that card, not very good. So yeah, I'm going Barriault knockout, but not super confident. I'll take Daniel Santos. Like him here, a little bit of a layoff, but no big deal. And I disagree with Aaron here. I think Becksat, even though he lost to Umar in his last fight, he looks really talented. I was really impressed with that debut. I feel like they don't like Katona and they're kind of like giving him this fight as like a way to like be like, okay, we're going to give you another fight here, but you're going to fight this really good prospect, by the way. So I think Becksat gets the decision here over Katona. Katona got a bit of a layup a couple fights ago against Jesse Butler. He's getting the opposite treatment here. I'm going Becksat. Great talking to you, Dan. Love this show. I think I was the first guest ever on Half the Battle, so it's great to be back again. Would love to be back another time. Nice meeting you, my fellow Canadian friend. And Lynch on Sports, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That's where you'll find me. I'm out of here, as they say in the business. I'll see you.
All right. So, Dravi, I mean, I think as far as Barriault, losing his chin and Bruno losing his soul, we agree with Barriault being favored, but do you think there's any chance that we can get back to, the destructive Bruno Blindado? And shout out to him. I know that performance against Nardia was absolutely pathetic, but I do have to admire his bravery for admitting what he was going through. Because I just know personally for me, like, I suffer from anxiety. I'm not afraid to admit it. And it doesn't matter who you are. You can be the most confident guy, the most outgoing, the most charismatic. And if you suffer from anxiety, it just is what it is. So I definitely sympathize with Bruno because, you're dealing with a guy, like I said, you sympathize with anyone that goes through it, but for a guy like him who's got like 20 knockouts on his records, as destructive as he is, it just hurts my feelings to see him not be able to like let his hands go and have that same fire he once had. So do you suspect the same thing that happened Saturday night?
It's a hard fight to predict, Dan, honestly, because we have a guy in Barriault who's known for his durability, known for to push a pace and get hit. Every fight he's been in, basically, he took a lot of damage in, and he trusts his chin as a weapon. But these guys, when they get older and their chins start to not be there anymore, it go downhill pretty fast, right? So getting knocked out back to back, like brutally like that, it's sad to see as a fan, because you talk about which one it was. You said Mike Malott, right? That's going to be a lot of people cheering for him. But Marc-André Barriault is actually from Quebec, so there's going to be a lot of people rooting for him.
Hold on. Not to cut you out, because we have to test out how hardcore y'all Canadians are, because this is the third fight of the night, Dravi. Is it going to be empty, or are they going to be showing up early for my boy Power Bar?
That's a good question, but I assume for Barriault, they're going to be out there early. I hope so, at least, because I'll be there, But that's tricky because, like you said, Silva has one of the things that he has always in his career is the power. And when you have a guy like Barriault that his chin is declining and getting knocked out back to back, it's hard for me to back him at chalk personally, because Silva does still hit hard. That's kind of the thing that he still has, but his last fight was just such a bad look to me. When you don't want to be in there anymore, when you took too much damage, when you say that you don't want to fight and stuff like that, respect for him to say it like you said. But at the same time, it's not a guy I can put my money on the fight after. He needs to show it to me. Like, if this fight, he come out there, look like his old self, get a knockout, look good, and then, all right, we can erase the last one and maybe he's gonna be back. But at his age, it's not likely to happen. And then Barriault, I can bet on him either because of the back-to-back knockout losses, and they're not that far ago, right? I was hoping that he would take maybe some more months off. He didn't, because he's a warrior and he's gonna go out there and fight for his people. But bro, looking into this fight, I just think he has more will to win at this point. I think he's gonna go out there trying to clinch, trying to work, and do more as the fight extends. And if he can avoid the KO early on, he's going to be the one doing more and maybe breaking Bruno Silva late. Because if Bruno Silva won the door later in the fight, if there's one guy that's going to show it, like if Silva won the door, Barriault's going to show it to him and finish him late. That's kind of what he does. He break people late. So I'm going to pick him. As far as the pick goes, I think he should win. I think he should be the favorite. But the line now is like minus 130 range. It's close. I think it should be close because it's just hard to have a good read on it. So yeah.
No, I feel you. Like I think that Marc is going to be working harder. It's just, is Marc going to work harder until he wins or until he gets caught, right? Like, so
yeah,
I think
exactly,
that's how it's going to go. But I got Marc-Andre as well. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got former flyweight and former bantamweight Daniel Willie Cat Santos, or as we like to say in Brazil, Daniel Willie Cachi Santos. He's 11-2, taking on Young Lee, the Korean Tiger, who's 11-2. Currently, they got it. Young Lee minus 120, Daniel Santos plus 100. This was minus 185, Daniel Santos, like a week ago. And so a couple things. Number one, the weight class, right? Like, Santos has fought at flyweight, not in the UFC, but outside the UFC. And then in the UFC, he's fought at bantamweight. He's got a 67-inch reach, which is a short-ass reach, and he's 5'6". So already at featherweight, he's going to be at a size disadvantage. But let me tell you something. This guy comes to fight. And I say that for a guy who's pulled out of so many fights that comes to fight. But I don't know what the reasoning is. Like, one of my homeboys was talking about how, like, he kind of has the Tom Breeze thing going on, but okay, maybe in the sense of like showing up to the fight, but the difference is like when Breeze wouldn't just quit before the fight, Breeze would quit in the fight, whereas I've never seen Daniel Willie Cat Santos quit in a fight. Like, I saw him get dropped with a head kick against Castaneda and come back and knock him out, so I don't think this guy has a quitting bone in his body. And then with the Korean Tiger, he's fun, man. He's kind of like a green raw, I don't want to say poor man's version because that's kind of disrespectful, but like you can tell he's highly influenced by the Korean Zombie. You can tell he's highly influenced by Doo-Ho Choi, and he's like a younger version trying to bring that style into the UFC, and you love it. I mean, if you're not a Korean Zombie fan, then I want you to unsubscribe to my show right now, because half the battle stands by the Korean Zombie. One of the most entertaining fighters in the history of the sport. Watch his first Leonard Garcia fight. Hell, watch all his fights. But that being said, I got a lot of respect for the Korean Tiger. I think he's going to be the bigger man here, but I think Santos is a way better fighter, and he's the underdog here. So unless maybe he's dealing with the Bruno Blindado anxiety, and that's why he's been pulling out of every fight, but I just don't see that when he's in the fight. When he's in the fight, this guy goes balls to the wall, man. So yeah, I think it's going to be some back and forth, but if we're talking about who's breaking who, I think Santos breaks Young Lee, man, and at dog odds, I might be interested. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, it's a fight where I think the early number on Lee, we're talking plus 140, plus 150. I think he was the side at this price because I really see this one as being very volatile. And you mentioned a key point is like the layoff of Daniel Santos. It's almost 2 years, right? So it's not like he didn't try to make it to the fight. He did try some of them, but like the Davy Grant fight, he didn't weigh in. Like at the end, he was supposed to weigh in, he didn't. And then some other fights, he just pull out and stuff like that. So we don't really know what's going on with him. And a guy like him that fight like the Shooter Bucks guy that go out there and kill or be kill and take a lot of damage when you're not been in there for 2 years and going back, maybe we see some ring rust. I don't know. But if that's the case, it's not going to be good. And the move up in weight class, I personally don't like it then for him. Maybe that's going to help him because maybe he just can't make the weight. But looking into the size difference here at face-off, I think we're going to see a massive one. And Daniel Santos grappling and wrestling is also pretty good. But I think in this fight particularly, he's not going to be able to implement it because of the size difference between the two. Lee, I feel like overall he's a good fighter, but he's bigger, he's stronger, he's been more active. And I like his game overall. But you said the next fight, if people are going to be out there, I hope that people watch this fight, because if there's one thing for sure, I'm not confident about who's going to win it, but we can all agree that it's going to be a banger. And one of the fight that I'm really looking forward to. But if I were to bet it then on this one, I think the under 2.5 make a ton of sense. It's around -130, -135. We see both guys that are finisher that's gonna go for the kill. And Daniel Santos, the way he fight, unless he fights someone that's just trying to pull guard and not get finished, like Johnny Munoz, normally he's Kirabiki, or he's the type of guy that's gonna go for finishes. And because of the layoff, because of this, the move up in weight, I feel like he's more likely to get finished here because he's someone that get hurt. Like you said against Castaneda, good fighter, but he doesn't hurt a lot of people, right? So I feel like here against Lee, who's a harder hitter, who's dangerous, I feel like he could get put down here. So finishing upside on both sides, banger of a fight. Give me the under if anything. But looking at the current price, I'm gonna lean on the Santos side. Like you said, I feel like he's more skills, and he has more that dog in him. So I like these type of fighter as an underdog. But because of the layoff, because of the move up in weight, I couldn't get to a bet personally. But pick wise, I'm picking him. And under, I don't know how you can look at the under and be like betting that, and after that be like, oh, it was a terrible bet. Like the chances, they're very low. But yeah, I'll lean the under if anything on this one.
And last but not least, in the bantamweight division, we got Brad Katona. He's 14-4, taking on Best Cat Almacan, who's 11-2. Currently, they got it. Best Cat -160. The comeback on Katona +140. I need your help on this one, Dravi, because I've been noticing a trend, my man. And I need you to tell me if I'm off base making this comparison here, or if I'm on the ball. Like, tell me what you think. So I've been noticing a trend where a fighter has one moment of success in a fight that he's largely dominated in, and then his very next fight, people are rushing to bet a stupid price on him. I remember Steve Erceg, and people think that I've revisionist history of the Erceg and Pantoja fight, because in my opinion, I thought Pantoja clearly won that 4-1, but people try to make it seem like Erceg got robbed. But my view of that fight was, Pantoja dominated him. Erceg had a little moment. And then the next fight, people are fucking favoring Erceg over Kai Kara France. The very next fight after that, people are calling Erceg a live dog over Moreno in Mexico City. Then you look at this kid, Roberto Romero. I mean, he has like one moment against David Onama, bro. And then he gets dominated like he doesn't even belong the next 14 minutes. And then he's a favorite against Timmy Kawamba, who had a war on contenders, had 2 wars in his first UFC fights. So I bet Kawamba at dog odds there and cashed. And I'm just curious from your perspective, Best Cat in the first 30 seconds of the Umar fight, he landed the only strike he landed of the entire fight. Happened to kind of clip him a little bit, behind the ear, kind of a temple spot, kind of got a little drop. But another pet peeve of mine, we'll talk about the recency bias where a guy has one moment of success and then everyone overblows it in a fight that they lost and this and that. But I just completely lost my train of thought on the point I'm trying to make. But what I'm trying to say here is that Best Cat landed 3 significant strikes in 15 minutes, guys. And I heard people saying that fight reminded them of Sarukian versus Makhachev. I was like, what? Like Sarukian and Makhachev was back and forth from the jump. It was like a true fight of the night. Whereas Best Cat had a little moment in the first 30 seconds. Oh, here's the point I was going to make. Now I remember. You know what's a huge pet peeve of mine, Dravi? When a fighter drops someone and then 2 seconds later, they're on their back. Oh my God, that just bothers me on ways I can't describe, because when you bet on someone and they drop their opponent, you're like, oh yeah, we got him right where we want him. Like a couple follow-ups or let him back up, keep whatever the case may be. And 2 seconds later, now you're on your back, and then you never land another strike again the rest of the fight. So yeah, so that was long-winded. But what I'm trying to say is this dude Best Cat completely overrated like Roberto Romero and Steve Erceg, or was it just Umar and he's actually a legitimate prospect? What's your take?
You know what? I think you're making a good point, because more often than not, what you're saying is right. And I think that's something that we can go against that trend, because normally you're going to get dog odds on the other guy. And normally they tend market-wise to overhype someone after, let's say, a good performance in a loss, or just a big moment in a loss that he got dominated. And like you said, I mean, he basically had a minute of success in that fight, and that's it. Like he got outside of that on the ground, he got dominated. But then to answer your question, it's hard for me to know, because he got dominated by Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm like, yeah, all right, he should have been dominated against him. And then you go out there on the regional, he's finishing these guys, he's looking all right. I don't really know his level. If I'm being honest with you, I don't really know what this how good this guy is, because I know he's not a top 5 guy, but is he a regional fighter or is he a UFC fighter? I think we're gonna find out on Saturday against Brad Katona, because Katona not the finisher you're looking for, not the best fighter, right? But he's a hard worker. He's gonna be out there for 15 minutes. He's gonna make you work. He's gonna throw volume. He's not gonna slow down. He's gonna grapple. He's gonna mix it up, and he's fighting at home again here. So I feel like we're gonna see in this fight how good Almacan is or how bad he is, right? So maybe Katona just outwork him, or maybe it's a very close fight. So I think there's upside on the underdog at the price, and people might be a little bit low on Katona right now because he just lost, and then this kid, oh, he almost beat Umar, they think, right? And now
he didn't almost beat shit, first of all, but yeah, you know.
Exactly, bro. Like he dropped him, but outside of that, like you said, he got beat up. So that's why it's important to watch tapes, right? Because if you go just right top of my head, I thought that fight was close before watching it. I was like, yeah, you almost won, right? And then you watch it back, you're like, all right, so you had 1 minute of success and then you got beat up. But again, bro, it's a top 5 former title challenger that he lost to. So I want him against, like, to see his level against these type of opponent. And now I'm going to see, and I'm going to be able to answer your question. So honestly, this fight's just a pass for me, but I could only bet Katona. And I think it's probably going to be close. The thing with Katona, it's hard to get behind him. He's small, he has no finishing upside, and he always fight close. So at a big plus money, you can be like, all right, give me that. But at the same time, it's like he's not gonna like 30-27 someone. He's not gonna like finish someone and look amazing. So on this fight, it's just like maybe you take a shot on the Katona side, and I don't even know who's gonna win it. Like being real with you, I don't have a good read on it. I think it's hard to have a good read, but I guess I'll go with Katona just because he proved me more and I know what I'm getting. And with Almacan, I don't really know, man. I don't know. So it's just a show me spot for me. It's not a fight where I want to have my money on it because I want to see what's up. I want to take notes. And then after that, for his next fight, because I think he's going to have another one, then I'll be able to cap him properly. But yeah, dog or pass for me then. But unfortunately, I don't have a good read on this fight either. It's hard to have one, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit you guys. Like when I'm passionate, I'll be passionate. But when I on the fence, I'll be on the fence. But like, okay, so here's my thing with Bestcat. So I did go back and watch some of his regionals, and obviously when he lets his hands go, he's got heavy hands. It's not just the guys he dropped on his regionals. He dropped Umar. So he can flash knock down anyone. It's just the in-betweens is what's lacking. Like the volume is so low. I think his takedown defense is a lot better than people think. That's just credit to Umar. Umar's amazing, but like the guys on the regional scene show how good Bestcat's takedown defense is, but he's kind of got that kind of coasting style, more of a striker from, you know, for guys that come from that area of the world. Circles around the ring, 30 seconds to a minute of inactivity, and then he'll blitz with a couple punches. Back to more inactivity, and then he'll throw some shots. But it's like with Katona, the things I don't like about him, he doesn't have like a 64-inch reach.
Yeah, he's very small.
I think like I know a lot of women with larger reaches than that. You know what I'm saying?
64.5 exactly, and it's 68 for Vecta.
But to his credit, he fights close with everyone, like you said. And like when you say everyone, we mean everyone. Merab Dawalish, Wheelie, like all these motherfuckers. But what's interesting is like he can fight close with like a guy like Merab, but then he can also fight close with a Gene Matsumoto or a Garrett Armfield, who are both good fighters, but they're kind of, you know, these are not ranked fighters, right? So it's interesting how he fights to the level of his competition. Yep. But one thing, he's never been dropped in a single UFC fight. Could that change here? Because Bestcat does carry a lot of power and he carries it throughout the fight. So that's one thing. But like if it goes the distance, I see this being a split decision type fight because every Brad Katona fight that goes the distance is usually a back and forth fight. So I'm not really sure. And when I'm not sure, I'll take the dog, but I can't confidently say I think he's going to win because I do think Katona is kind of towards the end of his career. I do think the optics have been getting worse. His face is a bloody mess every single fight, but I kind of feel like Bezcat doesn't do enough. So I'm just not sure. So for that reason, I'll take Katona, but probably don't listen to my opinion on this one because I'm not too convicted on it. Now, my man, before we get out of here, let's talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So in your opinion, Dravi, what is the fight to watch at UFC 315 in Montreal?
Give me a moment.
Okay, well, let me go first then. For me, I think that the fight to watch at UFC Montreal has to be, you know, besides like the main and the co-main event. I mean, come on, guys. It's the top prospect, Natalia Silva, taking on the former champion, Alexa Grasso. I've been blown away by Natalia Silva from the day she came into the UFC up until now. I mean, she has future title challenger, possibly future champion written all over her. And this is no easy test here. I mean, Grasso's coming off 3 back-to-back fights against Shevchenko. Like, so this is a real test. And we're about to find out if Silva can not only be a second former UFC champion back to back, but enter that conversation, enter the mix, and be one of the emerging contenders that is on the short list of a title shot. So for that reason, Silva versus Grasso is my fight to watch. What's your fight to watch?
You know what? I'm gonna go with one that can be boring, and name value wise, it's not the best. But as far as a fan goes, and as far as a banger goes, Daniel Santos versus Lee. We talk about this one, right? It's a fight where it's one of my favorite to watch on the card because it's gonna be a fun one. Whoever die, right? Whoever die or whoever win, it's gonna be a fun one. That's gonna be my pick for my fight of the night.
Yeah, and now we gotta talk about the fighter to watch. So who is the fighter to watch? I want to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius. Like, Natalia Silva passed the Jessica Andrade test. Will you? Mackenzie Dern did not pass the Jessica Andrade test. Like, not everyone passes this test. And this is a true crossroads fight because if Jasmine wins this, all of a sudden it's like, wow, now you're entering the conversation as well. Whereas if Jasmine loses this, it's going to be a long road back. Whereas Jessica Andrade, you win this, hey, you just set back, I don't want to say a young prospect, but you set back an upcoming prospect. Whereas Jessica loses this. And honestly, I honestly think the stakes are higher for Jasmine. Reason being this. Jessica, win, lose, or draw, your next fight, you're testing another prospect, no matter what. That's just the bottom line. Whereas Jasmine, this is the difference between you moving up to the top 10 and you potentially never getting a big fight again. So, yeah, for that reason, for that reason, Jasmine Jasudavicius is my fighter to watch. Who's yours?
That's the one I was gonna pick. I'm still gonna pick her, but since you already pick her, I'm gonna take another one. But yeah, Jasmine, like you said, like this fight, if she get it done by impressive fashion, she's going to like get a top 5 opponent after. So I'm really looking forward to her and performing that one, especially because I think she's gonna finish and look amazing. But another one that could be a bit sneaky, and I've been higher on him than most people, is Navajo Stirling. And I think in this particular fight, then what's gonna happen is I think he's gonna get an highlight reel KO. And then the hype's going to begin on him because the hype is not there yet, right? But personally, I think that he's going to get a highlight reel KO, and then people are going to be high on him after this fight. So that's another one.
Well, Dravi, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me right here, right now on Half the Battle. The fans can follow you at Dravi_ on Twitter, as well as the Beat the Line broadcast. Any message for the fans?
Thanks for listening. It was a pleasure to be on your podcast, Dan. It's been a couple months, but for this card, I'm going to the event, so excited to go out there and support my people. And I think it's a low-key a good card. People kind of sleeping on it, but I think it's going to be a fun one. And if you guys want my bets, my picks, all of that, you can follow me on Twitter, like Dan mentioned. You can hit me up on Twitter. I work with Odd Shoppers, where I post all my bets, all my breakdowns, and been profitable this year, already up 30 units, and been up and track my result last 2 years. So if you're new, you don't know me, go out there on Twitter, follow me, hit me up in DM, just say that you watch the podcast and you want to have more infos, and I'm gonna hit you up with a promo code on that one. And don't forget to subscribe to Beat the Line broadcast. We're me, Key, and Pegasus were trying to, work our way to the top, to be one day maybe like Dan, the one of the OG of the game. Everybody knows you, so you've been in this game for a long time, Dan. So always a pleasure to talk fight with you, my man.
Oh yeah, the pleasure's all mine. For all the fans, thank you all so much for all your support. It truly means a lot to me. Please smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment as well. Follow all my guests. You can follow me at Best Fight Picks on Twitter, at Half the Battle HQ on Twitter, at Half the Battle Pod on Instagram, and Half the Battle Podcast on TikTok. I actually remembered them all this time, and but I got to get those YouTube subscribers up. So like I told you all last time, y'all get me to 8K YouTube subscribers, and I'm going to give out some free signed UFC stuff. I already did it last time when y'all helped me get to 7K. Hooked up, about to hook up our winner here shortly. I'm about to win this auction and get him the signed card he wanted. But for 8K, I'm going to do another signed giveaway. And for 9K, same thing. But for 10K, once y'all get me to 10K subscribers, I'm giving away a signed glove by UFC Hall of Famer Michael Bisping. So y'all hook me up and I'll hook y'all up. So thank y'all so much again for your support. I'm truly, truly grateful. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.